I want to bring this one up again, this picture that we showed earlier. And of all the pictures I've ever received from a guest, I think this is the number one that captures the essence of a guest. And I'll let you speak to it in a little more detail than we did earlier.
Yeah, well, this, like I indicated, my letter, suggested that they put a marker up for the 40th anniversary of the speech, and it actually happened that way. And by the time I wrote the letter and the time of the incident, my son Lincoln, my daughter Lilly was born, and my son Lincoln were born, and my wife and I had the chance to go to the Lincoln Memorial, and I had a chance to give a speech along with Coretta Scott King. It was really an amazing experience. They said, when they started the day, they said Martin Luther King sat just to the left of the podium, which was where they sat me. And I gave my speech, and I can see my little daughter waving her hand at me. It was really a hot day.
Sure.
And then afterwards, I had a chance to meet Mrs. King, and she thanked me for my testimony and said that it's so good that you bring your children to these events. We didn't bring our children. And of course, what I was thinking was that Sarah and I thought we were bad parents because we didn't have the kids in a car seat on the drive over. Of course you didn't. Of course you didn't bring your kids. It was dangerous back then. I mean, and that King and others like him kind of paid the last full measure of devotion to the cause. I mean, I reference to Abraham Lincoln's speech when I had my chance to give the speech, and I told the story of Merton transforming Merton Square, and Mrs. King and John Lewis told me that Martin Luther King loved that space. Yeah, it just struck me. He loved the Lincoln Memorial. Apparently he called it a hallowed space. And so to have like some little connection to bringing that into the world, to be kind of a witness in the room, was just really, what an amazing thing. Yeah.
Well,
what a blessing. Yeah.
This is a good time to bring this up. You named your son Lincoln.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you might want to explain the rationale behind that. It's not necessarily a unique name, but I thought it was pretty cool choice.
My grandpa was named Nelson Lincoln Burbank, and so my boys I've got Nelson and Lincoln, and they've got my middle name, Nelson Matthew and Lincoln Thomas.
Okay.
And so it's for that reason, and Lincoln was always my favorite president, and that was always my favorite place. So
that's great.
And it's a good, strong Kentucky name.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so this was a picture done by Lincoln, correct?
Yeah, this, when he was 5 years old, Lincoln, out of the blue, drew this picture right when I was starting the Compassionate City work. And this thing spoke to me because it was like the heart of the city's here.
Okay.
And the hearts are going out, and it was like Merton Square, and he was 5 years old and had no idea what he was drawing. I mean, it spoke to me.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and
I love it. And I want to go into a little more detail this time. This is the letter by Strom Thurmond. Yeah,
this is the law that had to be passed in order to put the inscription at the Lincoln Memorial. Was signed by Bill Clinton, but it was presented at Congress, and Dennis Hastert was not present. So Strom Thurmond was 98 years old and put his signature on it.
And for those that don't know, why don't you briefly enlighten them
so
to Strom's background, excuse me.
Strom Thurmond was a senator from South Carolina, and he was one of the most outspoken against the Civil Rights Act of 1964. He had one of the longest filibusters in congressional history against it, and he lives all these years later, and here he is signing a law honoring the man that was responsible for so much of the civil rights movement, Dr. King.
Those are the God winks in life. There have to be.
Yeah.
They have to be. They really do.
Yeah, when I go around town, it's people's favorite part. I mean, I think it shows that we're all able to change. Yeah.
Absolutely.